Hello. I'm recording another live update from Ukraine before the weekend because usually I cannot do it on weekends due to the fact I cannot access the studio at the university while it's closed. And if nothing really revolutionary happens here, usually I on the weekend days I don't record updates. So I decided to record one today, summarizing what happened over the last 2 days. Thank you for everyone who watches these videos, shares them, asks questions in the YouTube. Sometimes I'm trying to answer those questions. As the events here develop in their own logic, military logic, sometimes there is no necessity to record updates every day, so I'm skipping couple of days, but I just wanted to give you a general picture of what happened over the past several days here and what's happening today. And one of key realities that we are facing in this past couple of days is heavy strikes and bombardments of civilian infrastructure, something that we have seen during the previous days too, but in these days for some reason Russian hits were targeted mainly at the fuel bases, so large bases where tens of tons of fuel is concentrated. So this is their attempt to cut the supplies for the army and for the civil infrastructure, because obviously if we lose all our gasoline and other types of fuel that are needed for cars and for military technique, then we have a problem. But so there were several missile strikes in various parts of Ukraine, central and western Ukraine, where no direct fighting is going on. And one thing that is new is that these strikes are on both sides, so to speak. So there were many destructions. I lost the count, but probably like up to 10 fuel bases were burned in Ukrainian territory, but there were two major hits of the Russian territory. And saying Russian, I mean actual Russian Federation. If you look at the map, in the northeast of Ukraine there is Kharkiv, the city that survived very heavy battles recently, and just across the street there is Belgorod region of Russian Federation, and in Belgorod there were two powerful explosions over the past several days. The first one was at the military base that is stock to military explosives, so like projectiles, missiles, whatever explosives they are using, and that was like a powerful firework there during the night. It's still unconfirmed what happened. It's supposedly a secret operation on the part of some Ukrainian divisions that sneaked there and put mines, bombs, or because there are no reports of a distance hit so far. Then this morning there was a major explosion on a fuel facility in Belgorod region again, which provoked a massive panic in the city of Belgorod, and many so we see the columns of Russian cars the civilians' cars live in the city, although no civilian infrastructure were targeted. The base, this fueling base, is again of military nature, so that was a legitimate target. But it's a huge psychological breakthrough in this war, because so far Russians were always promised by Putin that you will see the war only on TV, and they were enjoying the view, to be honest. In whatever country then they invaded, they would usually, obviously not all of them, but the mass of people who by all sociology surveys supports the war, they were always enjoying bombing of Chechnya, of Syria, of Ukraine, and now this reality touches their own lives, which is, I'm not, how to say, it's not that I say it with joy, but unfortunately, if you set the machine of war, it has its own rules, and this very minor strikes, it's just only 2 of Russian territory, is, I think, a kind reminder to Russian people that if you sow a war, you will reap at the end the same thing. And hopefully this will lead to some expression of public opinion in Russia to stop the war, or at least it will push the Russian army further from Ukrainian borders in the parts where they are shelling us from their own territory. Another thing that is happening, and I think I need to show you a map, is that Ukrainian army is advancing from Kyiv north in different directions, so pushing Russians away, and they are retreating. Sometimes they are really fleeing, leaving all their tanks and armored vehicles that become an easy target, easy game for Ukrainian army. And that's happening in the north here. So you can see the arrows, blue and yellow arrows. That's the advancement of Ukrainian army and flight of Russians. They also abandoned, good news that today they abandoned the Chernobyl zone. The story there was completely ridiculous. They invaded this 30 kilometers zone around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, which is generally closed. It's poisoned since 1986 with radioactive waste, so it was closed for public, and they invaded, they took over the plant, and they started digging trenches in the forests around the plant. Why? Don't ask me. It's absolutely absurd, because this soil is heavily polluted with nuclear waste. And what happened now is that over the last week or so, we were getting reports that Russian soldiers who were digging trenches in those forests there are in critical condition, taken to Belarusian hospitals with radiation problems in their body. I don't know what the exact English word for that is, but it's like poisoning with radioactive polonium and other dangerous materials, because obviously they could not do that. And even lying on the ground was absolutely prohibited there in this place, but they actually raised all the radioactive dust in the air, and it led to terrible damage to their health. So they abandoned Chernobyl today, which is a great news, because it means they will not be able to use it as a potential terrorist threat to explode. But really heavy fighting is going on here, as you can see, near Kharkiv, and especially here, because they are trying to encircle Ukrainian troops here. And this zone is super difficult today. There is a lot of fighting going on, and it's very difficult to hold Russian troops, because there are many more Russians than Ukrainian troops here. And Mariupol obviously is a wound on the body of Ukraine today. Here the situation is more or less okay, controllable. Ukrainian troops are advancing from this side. Russians are trying to advance here, but these are all rather minor advances. What's important is that in these liberated towns and villages in the northern Ukraine, there are horror stories. So over the 2 or 3 weeks of Russian occupation, everything is destroyed. I will just show you this little video here without sound, so you can see what's left. on the battlefield, so to speak. But it's not only question of battlefield. There are even villages and towns that were not directly affected by fighting, but they are completely devastated. They houses burned down, hospitals put on fire and shelled by tanks. Destroyed. All civilian infrastructure is destroyed. There are terrible stories of people being killed on purpose, especially the intelligentsia. Russians were going from house to house asking where people worked, and if they found a teacher, a university professor, even a kindergarten teacher, they would shoot these people on purpose. That was registered officially in many different places, and obviously it amounts to the crime against humanity. Another video I want to show you is from Mariupol. It's a drone video showing the theater that was bombed 2 weeks ago. Now reported about 400 civilians died, and another 400 were rescued from the rubble in the first days after the hit. And the city generally is basically wiped out. 80% of buildings are destroyed, and the heavy fighting is continuing. Another barbaric thing that is going on is mining of Ukrainian fields from the distance. So wherever they retreat, they use these machines. You can see here they are on the red square on the parade, military parade. The machines are for distance mining. In this video in a second I will show you how it functions, but they have this cynical name, agriculture. This missile complex is called agriculture. What they do, they throw mines on the fields to make the fields impossible to cultivate. As we are at the beginning of sowing season and Ukraine is heavily agricultural country, this becomes a real tragedy for Ukrainian agriculture, and will be a tragedy for many countries who are dependent on world. You can see these are not challenges of military actions, these are scattering mines on the agricultural fields. So the war is really unbelievable in its design. It's destruction that unexplored equivalent ancient history. Actually recognize all these things, cutting of gardens, destroying fields, destroying civilian infrastructure is something that happened in the most barbaric conflicts in the ancient Near East. So it's impossible. Also getting many reports of rapes, sometimes extremely cruel, and that's what we are facing. So please support Ukraine with your prayers, with your actions as much as you can. Thank you for watching. Please share this video. Thank you very much.